You are the person that people, the media goes to for talk about senior sex because we don't talk about it. Thank you so much for joining us today on Second Act TV. Today, I'm so happy to welcome back one of my favorite guests, Joan Price, best known as the senior sexpert and the author of Naked at Our Age, talking out loud about senior sex. Sitting right there, right behind me, Joan, and this happens to be the relaunch of your most iconic book. So thank you so much for being here again.
Well, thank you, Silke. The only thing better than being here with you is being here with you again.
I like that. Thank you. What I love about what we discuss, I don't get this anywhere else.
Yeah.
You are the person that people, the media goes to for talk about senior sex because we don't talk about it, which is, the focus of what your book was and now continues to be. And what hits me in your overall or overarching message, the two to me most important points is how our upbringing in the generations close to us, our upbringing really affects the ability to have great sex. And the other part of that is redefining what that is as we age. So that's what I'd like
Yes.
to concentrate on in our talk today.
That will be my great pleasure to talk about because it's so important.
Well, one of the things you say, and it makes so much sense, is that the biggest challenge to great sex after 50 isn't necessarily our bodies. It's our belief,
Yeah.
is what we believe and what we were taught. So the first question would be, what do you mean with unlearning our upbringing so our viewers understand?
If you were born in my decade, I'm 82, or couple of decades following me, you learned some really shameful things and misinformation about sexuality. You learned that you shouldn't do it. First of all, you shouldn't do it. And for women, you won't like it, but you will have to do it after marriage. And it'll be wonderful after marriage. But for now, it's something boys want, and and they can't help themselves. And you, as a girl, have to say no, or you get pregnant. Boys learned was different, but it wasn't any better in terms of how they view their sexuality going forward. They learned, I am my penis. And because I've got one, everyone's going to want it. Every girl that I set eyes on is going to want it. And all they need from me is just for me to stick it in. And my pleasure will be their pleasure. Oh my gosh. So, how do these two converge? They do not. How do they affect us at this age? They do.
Yeah. That's what really, when you think about that, because we don't think about that. But when this conversation came up, at least for me, and I know it does for thousands of others, is we really don't think about that. This is how we were raised,
Yeah.
and how that manifests now. We're bringing this into the bedroom. You actually dedicate two chapters to this, to unlearning your upbringing, as you already referenced, one for women and one for men. So let's go ahead and dive into that just a little bit deeper, what those messages were, and then how are we carrying that into the bedroom today?
How it affects us now is that the men now think that as boys, the I am my penis idea meant that the erections were automatic and lasted as long as you wanted and could do it over and over again if you wanted to, or if you could get a willing partner or privacy in your bedroom. But now that erections are not the main event of sex, if we can unlearn our upbringing and really look at what works for us now, what doesn't work. And for women, we were kind of closed down about even knowing what we wanted. I was taught in my sex education, which is really terrible. I was taught how girls got pregnant, why you shouldn't do it. And that was it. And my father was an obstetrician.
Mm.
Yeah, I know. That's a whole story. But I was taught nothing about desire. I was taught nothing about arousal. So when that happened to me, because hello, that happens, I didn't know what to make of it. I thought first, oh, I'm the only one that has ever experienced. I got magic, but I also didn't know what to do about it because that was never addressed. I didn't know about consent. I didn't know about boundaries. I didn't know about how women's bodies worked, except, of course, for the reproductive system. And men, boys at that time, they just thought, okay, I've got this hard on, and what do I do about it? And how do I convince a girl? Or if I respect a girl because she's a good girl who doesn't want sex, rather than a bad girl who's up for it. Oh my gosh. I mean, I don't even know where to go. Boom, 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 with all of these negative messages.
Mm-hmm.
Fast forward all these years later, maybe half a century later, how do we then reconcile what we have learned about our own sexuality? How do we let go of the shame that somehow we shouldn't be wanting these things?
Mm-hmm.
Add to that the ageism. Well, at your age, what are you thinking? I may be going in too many directions at once, but that's kind of how this happens for us.
Yeah, no, that you're right on for what I want to talk about, and what want us all to think about. Like I said, for me, this is so personal and so relatable
Yeah.
because I mean, my mother literally, oh, sex is just something you have to do. I mean, she literally said that. And when it was a bad thing. It was not something to be enjoyed. Boy, did I carry that into adulthood a long, long time. You don't ask for what you want, or you don't voice that you're having painful sex, for example, nor did I know how prevalent that is. And men certainly don't. Well, I shouldn't say all men. There's a lot of men that do now, but that women might just be experiencing pain is huge.
Yeah. I did not even know that girls could have orgasms. I discovered it accidentally. And I thought, what just happened?
Yeah.
And it wasn't until, oh, I'm so embarrassed about this, my sophomore year in college, when I had had sex with people. That was the first I've discovered how a partner can help us to orgasm.
Mm-hmm.
And the boys, so-called young men, but they're really boys in their emotional maturity. They didn't know how to do it either. They had not been trained. How do you give a woman pleasure? Well, who knows? Who cares? Their attitude was, I just seduce a woman enough that she says yes. And so there's lots of attention and lots of touching and lots of stroking and lots of eye gazing, not eye glazing,
Yeah.
lots of eye gazing. But then once I had consented or at least stopped objecting, that was it. It was just, okay, now it's just for me,
Mm-hmm.
thinks the boy. And I blame them, yes, but I also blame their upbringing because what did they know different? What were they taught? Were they taught once you get sexual, here's how to please a partner, here's how to ask for consent, here's how to go slowly and find out what she likes, here's how to
Yeah.
delay your own gratification until she gets hers?
That definitely never came up. Pardon the
Never.
pun. I yeah, and I think, well, and I, again, speaking for the women's side, we, and I was one of those women, made him feel like this was just the greatest thing ever when I really couldn't stand it.
I had the great pleasure after college going to Italy, and I had an amazing Italian lover, of course, legendary, right? And he said the difference between Italian men and American men is that we know that women really want sex
Mm.
and we know how to please them. Well, hello, could we disseminate that information, please? And I don't know how different it is in sex education now. So I know you have younger viewers who would go, well, that's so weird. How could you not know that? Well, how could we know it? There was no internet. Sex was considered shameful, so you didn't talk to your friends. Or if you did, it was kind of, hoo, so and so
Mhm.
tried to get in my pants. But I held him off.
Yes, exactly. And I don't know. We don't have a lot of young. I mean, our main audience is 55 to 64.
Yeah,
And equal men and women, which surprised me. But and then again, not because the topic they didn't don't get this kind of conversation anywhere else really either. As we age, yeah, there's lots of sex
yeah,
stuff on the
yeah.
internet now, but not necessarily about senior sex, which is where
No,
you have
yeah.
made don't have made such a difference that people
Thank
even
you.
know or believe that they can have the greatest sex in their life after 50, which I will attest to as
Yeah,
well.
yeah,
And
me too. I'd like to invite your viewers to put in the comments how their sex education or lack of it affected them, what they've had to unlearn in that realm. I think that'll be a really interesting, we can't gather them all in right now to talk live, but I will look forward to reading what they say.
yeah, I absolutely. We always get tons of comments. So I'd like to hear that too. To me,
Yeah,
it's fascinating what we came up with and how we dealt with that. And what goes hand in hand, of course, with the unlearning is redefining sex. I mean,
yeah,
so our beliefs might be a big part of why we're not having great sex. But yes, we are aging. Things have changed. And as you said earlier, a lot of men are still defining their masculinity with their penis. And when that goes downhill, it's not discussed. How do and you and I have talked about this before, but this is a conversation we can't talk about enough. Talk to me about the importance of redefining sex and what exactly that means.
sex is not just putting a hard penis in a wet, welcoming orifice. I mean, I could pick apart how many of those words don't apply anymore to sex or good sex. Being able to broaden all of the wonderful sexual activities that bring you pleasure, that let you give pleasure to a partner, and getting in the habit of saying things like, how can I pleasure you today? Instead of assuming that, oh my gosh, I hope the Viagra works in time. It's not about that. If you really question your partner, whether this is a long-term partner, with someone you've been dating for a while, or someone you just met and are getting sexual with, if you say, help me know how to please you, what hurts and what works today is one of my favorite phrases for
Right.
I mean, you
Well,
can't assume. You
yeah,
can't
we talk about
assume.
our aches and pains all the time. Why not bring that into the conversation?
Exactly. And so if instead of assuming it's going to be a hard penis with some place to go, take that out of the equation. Just say, here's how I would like to have pleasure, and I'd like to know how to give you pleasure.
Mhm.
And interact that way. Talk, learn to converse before you have sex. During sex, that's harder, but you can learn it. And after sex, well,
Mhm.
what worked and what would you like to try another time?
One of the things you say in your book is that we have to well, for redefining that, or the way I understood anyway, is that don't make intercourse
Yeah,
the main event.
no,
Is that foreplay, and it's not foreplay that
it's not.
really is the main event. Really, at any age, that is typically can be the absolutely most pleasurable part of a sexual encounter. I mean, would you agree with that?
And the older we get, the more
Mhm.
important that is. And even just that terminology, we have to unlearn. What were
Mhm.
we taught? Foreplay.
Yep.
That's to get things warmed up so that you can then go to, all right, now this is real sex. Here comes my hard penis.
Right.
Open your legs. But listen, the vaginas don't work the way they used to. The
Mhm.
penises don't work the way they used to. That doesn't mean you can't have wonderful sex. The pleasure sense, the sensation part of a woman's body
Mhm.
isn't the vagina anyway, it's the
Right.
clitoris. We have wonderful lube we can use now. So we don't have to wait for, okay, I'm not getting wet. I guess we don't have sex. We
Yeah.
have pleasure tools, wonderful
Mhm.
toys that can accelerate orgasm.
Mhm.
Open up. This isn't closing things down. See,
Mhm.
that's the thing. It's not, oh no, this is terrible. I'll have to
Mhm.
resort to that. One of my readers wrote me that. I have to resort to oral. What do you mean resort? I bet she loves that. I bet she loves that more than what you're thinking it ought to be.
Well, and one of the, again, my mind is just like hit, hit, hit. What struck me again is that one of the big obstacles is just, being okay, like with toys. Toys is so huge for us. We're learning so much now later in life. It's a necessity and
Yeah.
it's fun. Where else do you get this advice other than when you talk to Joan Price?
Oh, thank you. Well, I'm so honored to have that role because I know when I started writing and speaking about senior sex 21 years ago, it was some people said, "What? Wow, you're
Mhm.
you're letting it be so personal." And no, I don't know how. And yet, people bought the books. They came to my workshops. People
Mhm.
want this information. And just to say there's no shame in it. In fact, this is a celebration
Mhm.
of how we can age creatively, how we
Mhm.
can age centrally.
What do you think? I think I've asked you something similar before. Does anything surprise you still? You really go where most people won't in a very classy way. We're not talking a porn site or something. You are an educator. You're like the Dr. Ruth.
I've
I don't
met,
know if you like I don't know if you like that comparison or
I
not. I
love
love
that
her. Yeah,
comparison. And
I love her.
but does anything surprise me? I'm surprised every day. I'm
Mhm.
surprised by I'm not surprised by the questions people ask me because been decades of getting these questions. I'm surprised by their attitude, by what keeps them from exploring, what keeps them from trying new things, what keeps them from accepting in a positive way, not a negative way. Sex is more than what I thought it was. If the old ways don't work anymore, then let's try new ways. Let's see what works for us now. And I'm always surprised that that lesson has to be taught over and over again.
Well, Joan, as always, I will link to all of your information, to all of your books, and I'm just so glad you're back. You're back with your new book, and I wish you just great success, great success on the relaunch. It's so important. Go to joanprice.com. You can actually get an autographed copy. Thank you again for all the information that you provide. I look forward to our next conversation on Second Act TV.
It's been a delight.